now Democratic Congressman from California, Jimmy Gomez. Welcome back to the show, Congressman. So do you believe, Homan, that federal agents using inappropriate tactics will be held accountable? Because at the end there, he said he hasn't seen that they've used inappropriate tactics.
Well, I think he's completely full of it. One of the things I realized early on is that they're just making up the facts. When I tried to get into the detention center in downtown LA, the next day they put out a press release and saying I was denied because there was 1,000 protesters outside. So they don't have any credibility. It's going to be up to the Democrats to hold this administration accountable, ICE and CBP. That's why the Oversight Committee has created a portal so people can submit testimony and show proof of ICE and CBP agents that are in possible violation of the law. And that's what we want to do, because we want to see it for ourselves, because this administration is not going to hold themselves accountable. And they showed that by arresting and profiling U.S. citizens. So this is not going to end anytime soon, but I don't believe them.
Well, look, there have been multiple incidences of U.S. citizens being stopped and questioned whether they were born here. And then there's this viral video of a U.S. citizen arrested in Key Largo. Take a look at this. This is so disturbing. CBP acknowledged that it briefly detained the citizen, but what are Americans expected to do in this situation? What do you tell your constituents?
I tell my constituents that they should be prepared to get pulled over no matter what. One of the things is most of the time they're pulling over individuals that look Latino or Latino descent and might not do jobs that they think, quote unquote, Americans would do. So those are the ones that they're usually targeting. But one of the things I started doing in my district, unfortunately, this is the reality we live in, is I started having passport fairs and encouraging people to get their passport cards to carry it on them right away. They shouldn't have to be forced to show their IDs, but I know a lot of people are standing up for the rule of law by not doing it. They're doing their rights, but this administration doesn't care about their rights. So I care that I want them to be protected. So I'm encouraging them to carry their passport cards until we get beyond this administration.
So let's look at some numbers here, because new ICE data released as a result of a lawsuit, by the way, it shows ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records through October 15. And as you can see here, just a small number of them are the violent criminals the Trump administration promised to focus on. Is Congress going to step in and provide some oversight over this immigration crackdown, which seems to have cast a way too wide net?
Yeah, we should. Congress should step in, but under the Republican control of the House of Representatives and the Senate, they will never step out of bounds when it comes to Donald Trump. Just the other day, the former chair of House Ways and Means, the Republican, I quoted him back that he said tariffs are taxes, and he couldn't even say yes or no that he still agreed with it. So whatever they do, they're not going to admit it. So Democrats have to keep pushing it. And then one of the things that we're doing is really stressing the fact that they're not going after MS-13 gang members like they said they would. They're going after hardworking individuals in our communities. And unfortunately, we have to tell those stories so that even the Republicans, even the people that voted for Trump go, you know what, this is not exactly what he said he was going to do. This is not why I voted for him. And we need to have those stories. I just told a story of a family on my Instagram about how her husband was arrested at his taco truck. And one of the things is that he's never had any run-ins with the law. So he has no track record that he's even been here. So this is something we've seen time and time again, but it's not going to end. Oh, that's my son coming up. So keep going.
That's okay. If he makes an appearance, we'll be glad to welcome him. But let me ask you about the Epstein case now, because Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene relayed new details about her meeting with Donald Trump before she announced her decision to resign in January. Listen to this.
We did talk about the Epstein files, and he was extremely angry at me that I had signed the discharge petition to release the files. I fully believe that those women deserve everything they're asking. They're asking for all of it to come out. They deserve it. And he was furious with me.
What did he say?
He said that it was going to hurt people.
So do you think Trump's concern the release of the Epstein files will hurt survivors or potentially him or people in his circle?
I don't know Trump as a very caring individual for other people's welfare. I think he's somebody that cares only about himself. He takes actions that benefit himself. You've seen that time and time again. So when he says that it's going to hurt people, he's literally saying it's going to hurt me and it's going to hurt people that I know that support me. And Democrats across the board, as well as even some Republicans, is like, release all the files. Let the chips fall where they may. If it includes Democrats, Republicans, independents, the high-powered elites, donors, does not matter. We need to clear this up. People need to have, again, faith in our system. And the only way we do that is say that no one is above the law. Everybody will be held accountable. And no matter how much you're worth, no matter if you're the president of the United States, no matter if you're one of the economic, political, and social elites in this country. If Prince Charles or King Charles can hold his own brother accountable, we have to do the same when it comes to the people that people look up to.
California Congressman Jimmy Gomez, okay, you're free to put on your dad hat and get back to your son. Thank you so much.
Hear him in the background?
No, it's adorable. It's all good. Thank you much.